Yeah, welcome to the Jenkins Essentials Open Planning meeting. I think Mandy may not be joining us today because she's indisposed. So it might just be Baptiste and I. So this will be pretty quick. So Baptiste, I wasn't here last week. So I saw some work that y'all had done, but could you just give me an overview of what you and
Yeah,
Mandy were up to last week?
sure. So basically, last week the main thing that was done was to finish and get in the merging of the AWS flavors. So it's now available and working. So using the command line to use AWS CloudFormation to provide and provision everything. So I filed issues around, and so we've been having some kind of discussions and work around config as code, artifact manager, S3 plugins, EC2 plugins, and many things because, for instance, for now I had to, if you look at the PR, indeed, you will see that for configuring out of the box the artifact manager on S3 plugins, I had to mix using config as code for now and some kind of init.groovy.d to actually wrap up everything because it was not possible to configure everything out of the box.
Is this the pull request
So
that I'm looking at right now?
yeah, that's the
Okay.
one. And there's somewhere a reference to an ongoing ticket where actually on which, by the way, I filed PR this morning on not a fixed PR because I didn't have time and wasn't sure. I would be the one to spend time on fixing or making Artifact Manager S3 plugins and config as code work together, but at least I filed a PR showing that they don't work together globally, totally. And so the thing I'm now on is, so this morning I filed the PR and sent an email to the dev mailing list to gather feedback around and then wrote the JEP around AWS auto configuration. So that's the JEP summarizing what I actually did in the prototyping PR. And now the next thing I'm going to jump on is the long hoped one, also one of the one that made our test some kind of somehow flaky sometimes, which is the retry failure feature. Hopefully it will make our runs over in locally and in CI more stable, because sometimes it just fails and it doesn't retry, so everything is just, you have to restart the CI build and so on. And yeah, that's it for me. If you have any question, I'm happy to dig into something specific.
For this ticket in particular, the handling failures gracefully, there is there's some node modules that I was looking at a couple weeks ago, which might be interesting for you to look at.
Hmm.
I thought I had put those in here. Maybe I
I
did.
think I was going to say, I think you put a
Yeah.
comment already.
Okay. Good. Right now, the client is using this module called node fetch,
Hmm.
whereas our acceptance tests in the services side are using a module called request and request promise. I
Hmm.
think it might make sense to look at just changing the client over to use request promise rather than node fetch, because node fetch looks
Hmm.
like it's a very simple API, because it's implementing an API supported by browsers called
Hmm.
just fetch, which is relatively, I don't want to say primitive, but it's just not as advanced as it could be.
Yeah.
But it was the only easy thing that I had pulled when I started on that code in the client. So
Right.
it
I
might make sense to
imagine
remove
that
it.
the code will look like some kind of lambda using request promises and so on, like high level, yeah, programming model. Well, you can just say, okay, that promise should be retried 5 times and before we abandon or something, and then
Right.
so yeah, that's how I
So
imagine the code should look like. But yeah.
one of the things that I think would be worth experimenting with is there's different types of exceptions that will go into the catch state for a promise. Not all of them are download failures. For example, a 404 is not a retryable, at least in my opinion, 404 would not be a retryable error. Or if you had a syntax error in your promise or the function being executed by your promise, that would also not be a retryable error.
Yeah, for the 404, I tend to agree, but sometimes we know that, because of the mirror or infrastructure, sometimes some mirrors can be out of date for whatever reason, and so 404s could sometimes be actually legit to retry it. But yeah, I kind of agree with
The
the
way
general
that
idea.
the way that the mirror network operates, I doubt it's going to be updated within the retry window anyways. Because the mirror
Right.
network is going to
That's
redirect you fairly consistently to the same
yeah,
mirror on multiple requests.
yeah.
Um,
Anyway, I guess I think I mean, you're definitely right, and I think we can it can be a later optimization on
yeah.
that part, like forcing some other mirror if we can do that. I'm not sure, but yeah, okay. And I think that's it. I had something in mind, but I forgot that. That's for later. Anyway.
Do you have a link to the configuration as code ticket that you mentioned? I didn't see it
This is
in.
linked from some Jira, linked from so that's another one that just so just when you stumble into it, the remove port 50,000 is interesting because it's actually been triggered by the feedback of someone from the community, Damien Corabeuf. Yeah, on the JEP PR. So that's one of the good thing about submitting JEPs for public reviews and fetching issues. The issue about config as code is going to be just the easiest is going to go on to the config as code repo and look for the pools right now. The latest ones, I guess, or yeah, there's only 7 open.
By
Whip,
you?
yeah. So here you can see what the config as code looks like for S3, but you can see also the part that doesn't currently work. So it's going to be at the end because the rest is testing our infrastructure. So yes, the part that doesn't work is the commented one just on the bottom. But the S3 block store config part is actually what's already used in the other PR on the Evergreen side and is being actually used in production and works when you're using CloudFormation template.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and paste this into the Gitter chat. All right. I see that. Batiste, is there anything else, or should we go on to Mandy since she has joined?
No, that's fine on my side.
So Mandy, I was just
Welcome, Mandy.
asking Batiste to sort of catch me up on what was going on last week and what y'all did in my absence.
Yep. So I have the prototype for the Sentry integration. I wasn't sure what we would consider done with that, if we wanted anything that would actually merge back into the code base, or if we would just wanted to leave it separate for now.
I don't see why we can't merge it.
Well, I would refactor it slightly before merging it. Right now, it's a little bit hacky, and I would want to make it more of a sort of standalone library that we would use as opposed to having it like integrated fully in with the code the way it is right now. But if we want me to move in that direction, I can go ahead and have that done probably today or tomorrow.
What do you mean by standalone library?
Move a lot of the calls out into a separate class so that we have to have the third-party dependencies littered throughout the code.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. And yeah, I think it makes sense to go ahead and do that so we can merge it.
Okay. So I'll move forward with that so I can close out this ticket. And then after our conversation yesterday, I'm moving forward with the updates we need to have the flavor in. And so with that, that'll probably be done either today or tomorrow as well.
So just
to be sure,
yeah, go ahead, Baptiste.
Is there something up you would like us to review, or I'm not sure I understood. I don't find anything for now, so I'm missing
No,
something maybe.
it's my goal is to have at least one pull request ready by the end of the day today, my day.
Right. Fine. Thanks.
One of the things that Mandy and I talked a bit about yesterday was consistency of our database. Mandy, I don't think you've filed the tickets for that yet, but would you mind just giving an overview of what we talked about and what you're going to go forward and do?
All right, so there were two things that we had talked about. One is that what is in our database does not match our model definitions in the code. The big one that I had noticed when I was researching the instance flavor was that instance belongs to updates. But the database does not have any of the foreign key constraints or the not null constraints that if we had allowed SQLize to create the database, it would have been put in place. So one of the things I'm going to do is go through what we have defined in our models and make sure that our database matches the model definition, including all the relationships that are in there. The other thing was based on my previous experience with databases, especially with Postgres using sequences. I've had issues in the past with sequences, especially if you have to like do database backups and restores with the numbers getting out of sync. We've had much more experience using the primary key as a unique GUID as opposed to using a sequence value. And so I was going to go ahead and create a ticket to look into converting our database over to using GUIDs instead of IDs.
If that's something that you would be able to tackle this week, that would be ideal. Because for me, I need to continue on this ticket around deploying the backend services to evergreen.jenkins.io, which means I would be provisioning the Postgres database in Azure to actually run the evergreen services.
Okay, I think I should be able to get to that fairly quickly.
Okay. And then I'll just block, if you ping me with those tickets when you create them, I'll just block the actual go live to production on those being changed. So we start from a good data model.
Got it.
So for me, I was out, obviously last week. This week isn't all that free and clear as far as my time is concerned, but these two tickets right up at the top, the pusher service and then deploying evergreen.jenkins.io, those are the top two priorities for me from a Jenkins Essentials standpoint. They're both fairly straightforward. Where I left off with the pusher service is with Feathers, we have a fairly strong event system to where it's easy for the for Feathers, which is the framework that powers our backend. It's easy for that to just emit events over a WebSocket to connected clients, like the Evergreen client, for example. So I'd done the initial research on that. I didn't make a comment in here, so that's my bad. But it looks like that will work to where whenever we have an update level created in the backend services, we would just, like Feathers is already actually emitting a quote unquote created event. And we just need to expose that over a socket to the client and make the client actually do something meaningful with it. So that's what I intend on continuing to work on this week and closing out. And then I'll get the initial pull request up for some of the backend services in the Jenkins infrastructure project.
Okay.
So I think next week, Mandy, sorry, what would be nice to sort of be prepared to do is if you can demo some of the Sentry integration next week, I think that would be cool. And then Baptiste, I don't know how far along we will be, but being able to demo some of the launch on AWS, I think would be really cool.
Yes, there's already a video recording for that. And also so I forgot to say that earlier, but I've also filed a PR on Jenkins.io blog to talk about that.
Is the video linked from the blog post that
From
you're
the
gonna have?
PR, yeah.
No, but I mean in the blog post
Yeah,
that you have here.
it's linked from there.
All right. Video. Sweet. All right, never mind then. You're ahead of me, Baptiste.
Ahead of what?
Me.
In what sense? Yeah, you. I mean, yeah.
You're thinking ahead of me thinking of things, which is great. I haven't heard from Raul in a bit. I'm pretty sure he's working on other stuff at Clubbies. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure how quickly he's going to be joining us again, or how soon. I don't have much expectation right now that we'll see Raul in the next couple weeks. And what else is there? The incrementals publisher, which I know is very, very important to us in Collections.
Yes. I had another case just a few minutes earlier about what I would like to have it available.
It's definitely broken. So
There was something about blue ocean testing, which I can't file PR, incrementalifying blue ocean, which would help. But yeah, I can't do that. And I've been doing that, and even on EC2, but it was actually moot because it was broken, so nothing got deployed. By the way, I'm not sure it's normal if the deployment, is still green, everything is looking like it's okay when it's,
that is
yeah,
the
because
expected behavior.
Right, because you don't want to break PRs because incrementals doesn't work or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that right now is I've gotten a duplicate Azure function deployed, and I still have the open Azure function support request for the sort of current one that's being referenced by the pipeline global library that we use. It really looks like something behind the scenes has completely corrupted the application. So nothing that we did. So I spent probably 2 hours on the phone with a support engineer yesterday from Microsoft, and I seem to have stumped her, which is not a great thing. I don't want to be coming up with problems that support engineers can't solve. So
kind of the same thing with Olivier last week about CI Jenkins.io. So
yeah, we're very good at fuzz testing Azure. So the plan that I have today, and I consider this to be a higher priority than the other tasks that I had referenced. We've got the parallel infrastructure. I'm going to convert the pipeline library to use that parallel infrastructure and continue the support process with Azure. But we should be unblocked within the next hour or so, because I just need to switch some URLs after I verify that they are working correctly.
Great.
Yeah, apparently I'm glad you filed the ticket for this, Baptiste, but apparently it was broken for a couple days before this.
Yeah, I think I wrote the date. I think last time it worked, it was around the 26th of June or something.
Correct. That is what we found out from Azure support yesterday as well.
It's pretty kind of easy to see, because if you look at the repo.incrementals/incrementals, you can see that the last deployment was around that date.
So we'll see what happens with them on this. I might look at moving this out of Azure Functions.
Maybe.
Somehow this is the only function that seems to be unreliable, and it's the most important one. So
were you already using it somewhere else? I thought so.
Yeah, we use Azure Functions within the Jenkins project for some little bits of community automation. It's quite helpful. for doing little webhook-based, bits of logic. But in this case, the things that are working against us is we're using a newer Azure runtime, or Azure Functions runtime, because we needed Node 8 or later. The other functions run on Node 6, which is super old and doesn't have promises or any of the good stuff.
Battle tested.
Yeah, battle tested, yes. It's like Java 5. It's battle tested.
Yeah, or older.
Yeah. And this function also takes a little bit longer to execute. The usual runtime is around 1 minute, just because we have to download data and upload data and things like that.
Okay.
But if this happens again, I think or if this sort of behavior happens again, I'll have to look into alternative deployment mechanisms for the incrementals publisher. But I'll keep you all updated on that because it is pretty critical to Jenkins Essentials.
Somewhat.
Yes, somewhat. All right, I think that's it. Do we have any other topics we should cover real quick?
Just having a quick look at the PRs I have open. Maybe that will trigger some thought. No, that's okay.
Mandy,
That's fine.
anything from you?
Talk about everything.
Nothing additional for me.
Okay. Cool. Well then, thanks y'all for joining, and I'll see you in Gitter.
Bye-bye. See you next time.